Well, good morning. It's Thursday, and let's see, what time is it? It's going on 9 o'clock. We'll call it a few minutes before 9. I have the new tire mounted. They picked it up yesterday afternoon. Client has asked me to lubricate the swing arm. I've disconnected it, and it seems smooth enough, but client asks, client gets. So I'm going to pull this nut off on this side and pull the swing arm shaft off the other side and completely release the swing arm. I went out and bought a really nice grease gun, and then I found out that it wouldn't fit up under there using the stock nozzle. So I bought a clip-on nozzle that goes up there and snaps on the end. Really cool. And then I found out that couldn't use that, so I went out and bought a flexible hose. So now I own about $50 some odd worth of grease gun loaded with lightweight lithium grease as called for in the book. And no matter what I did, it wouldn't pump grease into that Zerk fitting. I pulled one of them out, figuring I could pump grease into the other one and it would go across and come out the hole. That didn't work. Basically, it just squirted grease all over up in there, and I had to dig it out with my hand. So I'm going to pull the shaft out as described in the book, lubricate it by hand, and maybe try putting some grease in there with the Zerk fittings after I have it all apart. So that's what this morning is. Before I put this rear wheel back on, I am, one way or another, going to lubricate the swing arm bushings. All right, I've got the bike up in the air. I've got the safety chains on the back end of it because although I work on bikes on jacks all the time, I don't like to work on extensive stuff on the back end of a bike when it's up on the air balanced on a jack. So I put the safety chains up here just as safety chains. So anyway, I've released I showed you before that the swing arm is released, and I got on the other side, took the nut off the other side, and I've tapped this axle out of the swing arm with a brass beater on her, and using Jake to tap it out. And we'll probably hear it go crunch over there, but I'm going to pull it. And then we're going to take this swing arm out and lubricate it and put it back together. All that because the silly Zerk fittings just wouldn't accept lubrication. Now that's plenty of grease on there, but we're going to clean it all out and put it in fresh. Okay, here we go. All right, it's nice and wet, lots of grease. And I'm going to pull this out. It'll probably hang there, it will. And at this point in time, I'm going to stop the video until I take that swing arm out and put it on a bench. Okay, I pulled the center bolt out of this swing arm. It's over here, and I will clean the heck out of it before I put it back together. But the center bolt's out. That lets you look through the swing arm from one side to the other. And I know you can't see anything because I'd have to have this light on the other side. But you can see all the way through there. It comes out the other side. Now, the thing of it is, the swing arm does not pivot on that bolt. The bolt just holds the bushings that are inside here. And what I did is I took the Zerk fittings out and I cleaned them, and they're way up under here. Let's see if I can zoom in on one of these. And the camera doesn't want to zoom because my fingers are greasy. Let's do that. There it is. There's a Zerk fitting on that side. And the Zerk fitting over on this side has my grease gun snapped on it. And I just greased about 6 handfuls of grease up in there. And if you want to look up in here, you can actually see where the grease has come out here. So grease is going in there, and the bushing is now greased. So let me go in here with a fingerful and we will take a look at it. If I can get down in here. So fresh grease has been put into that bushing. That's good news. Okay, so now I'm going to grease the other side with the other Zerk fitting and then put this back together. And at that point I will say I have successfully lubricated the swing arm bushings. Okay, so I got the grease gun on this side now, locked onto that Zerk. And I have forced grease in and out. You can see it coming out there. And there's the old grease. It's brown. And the new grease is inside there also. You can see that. So, getting lots of new grease in there. Here's the new black grease. That's lightweight lithium grease. So, that's going to be great. Okay. So, all right. All right, so there's fresh grease on both sides. I think I'm going to go back and put some more grease in that left side until I see, oh, this fake focus is just something else, until I see old grease come out like I did on the other side. So I'll shoot a little bit more fresh grease into this side. Let's get a flashlight. Okay, I got more. Yep, there's brown. Give it a couple more squirts and call it good. There's a lot of grease coming out of there. Reaching under here. Yeah, it's coming out all over the place. So, plenty of fresh grease coming out of there. Okay, so I'm going to consider the swing arm completely lubricated. Well, let's see, it's 2 o'clock. I've already been to lunch with the old farts, PHARTZ, and I'm back and I've got all this stuff organized. These are all the bits and pieces that go to the rear wheel over here. These are the bits and pieces that go to the front headlight and the new steering lock, and the old one, and bits. And here sitteth the rear tire with nicely mounted upon the rear wheel. So let's see if we can't get all of these parts put back into the bike and make the rear wheel go round and round. Let's see, a recap over here. I think I've already mentioned that I got the Zeus fasteners. No, these are not Zeus fasteners. These are, I don't know, clutch fasteners or something. And they're up in here, way up in here. And they're cleaned and greased and way up in there. You have to zoom in a whole lot to get to them. There, nice and clean, new copper washers. And that one's behind the bolt. So that's all greased. Got grease coming out the seals, so it's nicely sealed and greased. Rear shocks are hooked up, and now I'm going to put the rear wheel back on the bike. Well, let's see, it's 320. The rear wheel is completely reassembled, installed, adjusted. Chain tension is adjusted. That's about right for being up in the air. I'm going to, well, let's see. I'm going to adjust the brake now with one of my favorite tools that I made. If you've never seen it before, I'll show it to you. It's a socket welded to a tube with a notch. And it fits in right here. And it turns this. And when I stick it on here, now I'm going to go the other way. there. Let's see how tight we are. Okay, we can go a little tighter. And that's pretty good. Yeah, I might tighten that down just a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay. All right. The wheel is aligned. I have this alignment tool. If anybody hasn't seen it before, this is an alignment tool for aligning your rear wheel. And it's just a bent piece of wire with a little piece of slidey wire on it that slides up and down. And goes from any known location on the bike, such as, in this case, this little area right here, that nut. You come back here, there goes Harley, and I go to the center of the axle, measure it, right about like that. Okay, now take the same over to the other side, and let me switch hands here. And from that same nut over here to the center of the axle, like so, and you've got your rear wheel aligned. That works pretty well. At this point, I'm going to tighten down the axle nut, and let's see what else. Oh, I'll show you. I did the master link safety wire. Something I do. Put the wire through there, and it keeps the master link in place should anything silly happen. So that's always a good thing. Doesn't affect anything. Doesn't rub, doesn't wear, because it's actually going through the gap between the link and the sprocket tooth. So it's not rubbing against anything. It's just safety wire on the master link. All right, I'm going to double check all the nuts and bolts and let the bike down. Okay, something I didn't show you that I did and I should have shown you, because it's not important, but it is important, but it's not important, but it is important. It's just sort of an interesting thing to do. And basically that is, I like to lock the brake tight as a drum, all the way tight, before I tighten the axle nuts. Now, I went ahead and did that a few minutes ago, but I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay, so I'm going to loosen the axle nut, lock down the brake, and then tighten it again. And what that does is it centers the brake shoes inside the brake drum before you lock things down. I truly don't know how much difference it makes to do this versus just tightening it down when you put it together, but I do it just to center the brake shoes inside the brake drum before I tighten the axle. So I'm going to set this thing up in a tripod, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. All right, I loosened the axle nut over here, and now the best way to lock down the rear brake is either to jam the pedal down, or have a buddy hold it down or something, or using my fancy dancy little spin jobby do. Okay, it's tighter in the drum now. It's not going anywhere. So I've just locked the brakes and centered the brake pads in the brake drum. Now I'm going to put on a bigger socket and go over here and tighten down the axle nut. Okay, now that's nice and tight. I'm going to go over and tighten it down with a breaker bar, but it's tight. And at this point, I can back this off again to some reasonable amount by releasing the brake. That's about the same we had it before. Okay, I feel better about that. I'm going to go ahead and put a breaker bar on this side and tighten that axle nut. And we'll be good. All right, well, it's 20 to 4. I'm going to call it a day. And I'm going to call this bike done from the center point back. And all the rear wheel work is done. New tire. I'll tighten that. Don't like that. I'll tighten that. Wheels installed, brake is adjusted. Everything is done the way I like it. Tomorrow I will flip the bike around and take the front wheel off and get the new tire put on the front wheel. Check the wheel bearings. I'm sure they're okay because I put sealed bearings in them years ago. Check the brakes, make sure they're okay because I probably put those in there too. And then install the new fork lock. And with the fork lock installed and the front wheel new tire installed, that'll satisfy the list of requests that the client made. So let's see what happens tomorrow. So, see you in the morning. It's a good looking bike, isn't it?